Welcome into the Cowboys Report on this fine game day morning. Football's finally back. Cowboys taking on the Bucs later tonight. And if you're wondering, wait, didn't you do a preview earlier this week? Kind of, sort of. This one's a little bit different look at how the game could go down. Some big things that will make or break this matchup. The line, by the way, has changed since we did our first general preview. Favorite now, Bucs, 2.5 as opposed to just 1 there. If you want our initial preview, you can still check it out on the channel. Thumbnail looks like this. I'll put it in the comment section, the description as well. But make sure you're subscribed because we got free videos every single day. And yes, we will be live once again for the Cowboys-Bucs Sunday Night Football matchup. We'll break down everything in that game, do our post-game show, crush some beers along the way, hit that big red button, and subscribe for free daily videos here at the Cowboys Report, the #1 Cowboys YouTube channel. Today's preview is a bit different. Not what we talked about last week, or earlier this week, I should say, but 5 critical things that I'm going to watch for that I think will make or break this Cowboys game. Number 1 is Dak carrying this Cowboys offense. And the Cowboys team, Jerry Jones, Stephen Jones, the organization, etc., have made a big deal about him elevating the cast. And the burden has been put, undoubtedly, on Dak Prescott this year. The pressure is on him to make a lesser offensive line and a lesser receiving core play better. He's done it before. Your offensive line, if he gets the ball out quickly, avoids the sacks, sack numbers stay down. We've seen guys like Cedric Wilson get paid big money, thanks in part to Dak Prescott's play. Now, it's not really how smart teams do it. You watch the Bengals and the Chiefs throw money at the offensive line when it didn't perform up to expectations. Cowboys spent a first-round pick. That was it. You watch the Bucs add Julio Jones and Russell Gage to their receiving core this year. Not the Cowboys did. But this is the reality that they operate in. That the philosophy I don't agree with, but it's not beneficial to discuss really anymore. It's the reality of the situation. The Cowboys need the top 5 version of Dak Prescott. That was the guy we saw in the first half of the year where he was playing at an MVP level before that calf injury against the Patriots. He was awesome. There were not many QBs outplaying Dak in those first few games. The back half of the year when he was more like top 15-ish QB, not a disaster, but not what you need to make an actual true deep playoff run. That's not going to cut it with a lesser supporting cast this year. You need Dak to ball out. You're not going to go undefeated. He's not always going to be perfect. That's an unrealistic expectation. But for an entire season, you need Dak to be really friggin' good, or the results are going to be worse than what they were last year. So our pin question today, after this year, when we have an entire season of sample size, maybe young guys like Justin Herbert, etc., take a big-time step forward, and maybe some older guys regress, where do you think the general consensus will rank Dak Prescott among NFL QBs? It's the pinned comment on today's video. So if the ad break comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. Number 2 for me, and this goes both ways. How do the Cowboys offensive line and the Bucs offensive line handle opposing pass rushers? Both teams are kind of worried about their offensive lines right now. The Cowboys are going to start Tyler Smith at left tackle. Connor McGovern's in there at left guard. There's uncertainty at every spot except, I would argue, the right tackle position. The Bucs offensive line, meanwhile, you feel good about Tristan Wirfs and Shaq Mason, but you've got 2 new guys in there at Luke Gadecki and Robert Hainsey at center and left guard. Those are unknowns. If you're the defensive guys, Todd Bowles, Dan Quinn, for the Bucs and Cowboys, you're like, I can take advantage. What I think the Bucs should be doing in particular is stunt a ton and simulate pressure. Now, I think most of us know what stunts look like, right? Where you're able to take your defensive tackle, defensive end, loop one around, bring him around. We saw the Cowboys starters during practice, had some issues there with stunts. I'm looking, if I'm Tampa, I'm going Tyler Smith, Connor McGovern, Tyler Biadasz, weak point. I'm going to stunt and confuse that side of the line to generate free looks and generate pressure. Then you can simulate pressure. Here's an example of how you can make stuff work on both sides. The Bucs at this front have 7 men along the front, right? 5 guys standing up over the middle, 2 on the edge. You don't need to bring all 7, although Vita Vea is over there on the left, on the offense's left side, the right side for the defense, right? So you can drop 3 guys back and bring 4. You can, simulate pressure where you're not actually bringing more people, but you're trying to confuse the offense as to who is coming and who's dropping. You can drop two guys on that side, have Vita Vea crash along the defensive line, and maybe you'll loop, one of those edges, Devin White, 45, they're lined up over the left guard, loop them all the way around and stunt that way. All of a sudden, Smith's taking Vita Vea on the inside, and nobody's following Devin White around the edge. And the Cowboys, meanwhile, and we saw it kind of sort of in the preseason, do the exact same thing. In an ideal world, you beat opposing quarterbacks by winning with a four-man front. Go back to those Giants defenses against the Patriots. Four-man front. If you get pressure, you're dropping guys in coverage. If you win with four quickly, it is very difficult for the opposing QB to have any success. You beat Brady by getting pressure quickly because he's going to get the ball quickly. I think the Cowboys would do the exact same thing. So it's up to your defensive coordinators to be creative with how you're able to generate pressure without or with minimizing your risk for allowing big plays on the back end, which we'll get to in a little bit. But first, pick the score for me of the Cowboys against the Buccaneers. Who you got and by what margin? Sound off for me in the comments section. Let's talk secondary now. They need to step up. Again, the Bucs offensive line is iffy, but their receiving core is one of the best in the NFL. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Russell Gage, Julio Jones, Jalen Darden, Scotty Miller, and Brashad Perryman. 7 deep with, if you had to play them as wide receiver 3, you'd be like, we're fine. We got Mike Evans and Chris Godwin who may or may not play week 1. That is still a bit up in the air as we film this. So it's up to your corners to have big success. Trayvon Diggs, Anthony Brown, Jordan Lewis, etc. The Cowboys last year were near the top of the NFL in takeaways. In fact, they were at the top. Now, I know this to be true. Historically speaking, it's how it works. Those takeaways will regress. You will not force as many turnovers this year. You still might force a lot, but the same number is probably and has been unrealistic for the past 7 years in the NFL. Now, on the flip side, the Cowboys allowed a lot of big plays. Those should also regress to the mean. And in this case, instead of being bottom 5, maybe you're more like league average. If you take away some turnovers, maybe you take away some of those big plays. Maybe Trayvon Diggs tackles better. Maybe with Damontae Kazee gone, you don't just whiff on a coverage and allow an 80-yard score that wasn't Diggs' fault, but he got blamed for. The early season tests, by the way, Bucs and Bengals. It's about as tough as you'll find from a dynamic passing attack for any team over a 2-game stretch to begin the year. We'll see how the Cowboys secondary fares against 2 brutal tests from quarterback intelligence and big playmaking and receiving talent as well. Now, today's show is made possible by our sportsbook partner, BetUS. I threw some money down on Dallas to win the NFC East. I've not yet placed my bet for the game against the Bucs, although it's now up to 2.5. When we first did our preview, it was a 1-point spread in favor of Tampa. I feel better about this being a 2-point game or a 1-point game. I had it 24-23. I kind of lean more towards Tampa, not covering the spread this time around. You can bet on the Cowboys or fade them with BetUS. Chatsports.com/bet, promo code Cowboys125. All right, number 4. And this kind of goes for both teams too, but it's early down success. I suspect the Cowboys, with an offensive line that's new and lack of playmakers at receiver, I think they're going to try to run the football, which I would like to throw it, but you're banged up at receiver, offensive line. I get it. Although I hope this game plan is last year's quick passing game. We'll see. Hopefully, fingers crossed in a big way, the Cowboys are a better run team than what they were down the stretch. Last year, opposing teams said, we're going to play off coverage, play some 2-high shell stuff, go light boxes, and we'll dare you to run the football. And the Cowboys could not do it. They were a terrible running team despite teams daring them to. In the modern NFL, you want to be able to throw the football and have success. But when teams say, no, we're going to take away the pass and run it, you need to be able to run the football. I don't want to have a run-first team, but I want to have the ability to run that football. And part of that ties into this point. Do not play for third downs. It's just like when you coach not to lose, you end up losing. When you play to get to third and manageable, you've lost offensively. The 5 best teams last year in 3rd and 5 or shorter scenarios, right? The Chiefs were the NFL's best at an astonishing 77%, way higher than most teams. The Bucs were 64, the Cowboys were 63. Titans and Bills were both at 61%. So two teams either with great ground games in Tennessee or awesome offenses and great quarterbacks. The Chiefs, Bucs, Cowboys, Bills were among the best offenses last year in the NFL. If you're at 60% or better, you're among top 5-ish for the NFL. You're doing your job on offense relative to the rest of the NFL. But it also means you fail 40% of the time, which means either you're going for it or you're punting and your drives are over or you're settling for field goals or whatever. So if you try to just play, we'll run it a bunch and get to 3rd and 5, you're asking your quarterback to succeed at a rate that is basically impossible. Because if you get to 3rd down and 5 on your first 2 series before you punt, you're not going to get one of them probably. So all of a sudden, you're punting and you didn't score. That's what you don't want to have. So I'm hopeful the Cowboys can find ways to get first downs before it's 3rd down. That's how you have success, especially if teams are taking away your explosive big plays like I think the Bucs will try to do against the Cowboys in Week 1. So when it comes to the play calling, Kellen more on him in a second. What's your confidence level in him? Scale it for me from 1 to 100 in the comment section. Number 5, we got to have some creativity on offense. And there has been a trend that troubles me early in the year for the Cowboys. Last 3 years, the trend has been they are creative early in the year. And then it goes away. And in 2019, I'm like, it was Garrett. Garrett said to dial it back. He didn't like what Kellen was doing. 2020, well, the quarterback was hurt. It wasn't fair. Last year, what's the excuse? Why did it go away? The Cowboys and Kellen Moore have not done a good job of doing the things that worked well early in the year, continuing them, and then when things get tricky, adjusting. They were bad at that. You need to scheme touches for your guys because you are limited with the number of playmakers that you have. You've got to get the ball to CeeDee Lamb often. Get him involved. Put him in the backfield one time, run an angle route. I promise you it'll go for 15-plus yards. I know that the Lamb next to Dak in the backfield package dicks. We saw it last year. Give him a handoff or two. He's not full-fledged Deebo Samuel. Nobody is. But he can handle a couple touches per game from the backfield. Please use Tony Pollard more. Not just from touches, but snaps as well. Play action's great. My concern is there's going to be 2 main buckets this year. Play action, force deep shots, which never ever work with max protection, and then some waggles to throw short passes to Dalton Schultz. It's fine. They work pretty well. It can't be the only thing you do. Also, Kellen, abolish the 2nd and 10 run. I am begging you. The Cowboys have a very bad tendency to, if they throw an incomplete pass on 1st down, or they get 1 or 2 yards on 1st down via pass, the next play is a run. They are way too committed to running it on 1st or 2nd down. It is a tell, it is obvious, and it almost never works. So I hope there is some more creativity beyond some of those whip routes you'll see for the Cowboys offense this year. Don't do the obvious thing, the things that work. They got away from that last year. Also, how about no more flags? If the Cowboys have 100 yards in penalties, they're going to lose, because it requires an unreal offensive effort to recover from 100 yards in penalties. That's multiple drives. It kills multiple of them. It's bad. So let's make the Cowboys commit fewer mistakes by bullying them on social media. Type flags in the comments section to reduce the flags the Cowboys have in 2022.